All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Yosemite Fit Show. I'm your host, Brent Shazer.
I'm Steve Duggar.
Here's my own co-host, Steve Duggar. How's it going, Steve?
Good.
Yeah. Been a couple weeks again, but back at it here.
Yeah.
So glad everybody could join us this week. We've got a real treat for you. We have not one, but two guests. They are from Pure Training Studio. We've got Ariel Long, the new owner, and then Mel Powell, right? Mm-hmm. The head trainer there. And they're going to talk about the latest and greatest of what's going on at Pure. So before we get started, though, as always, we need to do the quick disclaimer, remind everybody, all of our listeners out there, the topics we discuss on this show are informational only, and you should always seek the advice of your own doctors, trainers, nutritionists, and other healthcare providers about your individual needs. Neither the hosts, the guests, nor anybody else are liable for the use of any information presented on this program. Okay. Whew. I should just pre-record that and edit it in, come it in.
So. Make your life easier.
Right. All right. Well, so like I said, we are here with Ariel and Mel. We're going to talk a little bit about Pure Training. So what's going on at Pure, guys?
Hey, Brent. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Steve, a pleasure as always. Mm-hmm. Over here at Pure, we're excited to be launching some new programs for the community.
Okay.
Specifically tailored around mothers right now, providing great opportunities and programs for strength training, nutrition, accountability, fitness, pretty much the whole package. And so Mel can give us some more details on what that looks like. Okay. But really creating more programs and opportunities for people to grow in their fitness.
That's great. All right. Well, Mel?
Yeah. Hi.
Pass it up to you.
Yeah, give me the baton. So as far as the programs go, we have one that we're launching. Well, it's launched right now. But we're going to be starting May 6th is the start of the program. It's called Nourish-HER. And it's all about overall wellness, holistic wellness for mothers postpartum, any transition of womanhood really, but more geared towards the postpartum life. I'm newly-ish postpartum, so it's something that's near and dear to my heart.
Okay.
And yeah, we're also going to be starting a Mommy and Me fitness class. That's starting in May as well. Super exciting. Bring your kid and get fit. No more excuses. You know, I know, at least for me, you know, I'm really lucky and fortunate to be able to bring my son with me almost everywhere. But to be able to bring your kid to something that I just think is really vital that children learn at a young age. It's pretty cool. It's a cool experience. So get to bring your kid along, get fit, and have a great time. So those are the two ones that we're focusing on, but we've got all kinds of ideas coming up for future programs like mobility and, I mean, you name it, really.
All right.
Yeah.
Mobility, strength, nutrition.
Yeah. All the things.
Mindfulness.
Mindfulness is a huge one. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What types of things around mindfulness are you guys planning on? Give us a little.
Yeah.
Well, we have a group of people that would come in and do, yoga or come in for a meditation.
Okay.
But being able to kind of systematize or program that, I think it's definitely part of taking the next step in your fitness journey. It's pretty easy to, lace up your sneakers and go hit the road. But I think
speak for yourself, all right.
Well, okay. But
this physique does not run.
Yeah. Well, either way, I mean, you go stick to whatever routine you're used to, right? But once you plateau or you stop seeing the results that you used to with that same program, you kind of have to internalize a little bit and figure out what's going to work for you. So I think mindfulness is a big part of that.
Yeah, mindfulness, I think, is a big piece missing from a lot of fitness programs, wellness programs. The mindset's everything, right? Yeah. So, but also in this day and age, I mean, we're so distracted by our phones and media and society saying, like, you should look this way and you should be this way and you should be doing this. And we're like pulled in so many different directions, and mindfulness kind of helps to ground us.
Okay.
And I mean, yeah, our breath is really important, and just tuning in and grounding, and it's the missing link to wellness.
Right. Yeah. Someone who, I've always found, meditation very helpful. I've done a lot of Zen meditation where you do a lot of focusing on the breath, and it's amazing, for me, just how often, even, walking around, how I'll catch myself where you're tight, and just taking that moment of, being in the moment, relaxing, breathing from the belly, being in the moment is super important. Yeah. And, being, able to really focus during your workouts on, specifically what you're doing. obviously a lot of the top bodybuilders, talk about that and really focusing and on the muscles you're working and everything. But
Arnold mentioned it specifically in his book, Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding, the mind-muscle connection. So from a bodybuilder perspective, it's like putting your mind in the muscle that you're trying to work.
Yeah.
So you can infuse mindfulness in just about anything you're doing as long as you're present on the moment.
Yeah, I love that. And it comes into play big time with the Nourish-HER program when you talk about mind body connection. I mean, with the pelvic floor and the core, having the connect, because we lose that connection, so really important.
Absolutely.
So what other in the Nourish-HER program? How long will that program run for?
So it's a 6-week program. And it'll be done like mid-June. 6 weeks. And then the option to, because you're going to like love the results that you get and you're going to want to do the option to go another 6 weeks for the full 12-week program.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And how many like spots do you have available?
Oh my goodness. We have 6 left. 6 spots available. Something like that.
Okay.
So we have a hybrid program, right?
Yeah.
So we have an in-person program, which caters to the Mommy and Me fitness class. And then we also have an online coaching program as well to assist with mothers and give them the additional resources that they'll need to be successful.
Yeah. What's cool about the Mommy and Me class too is it's also hybrid. So both of these are hybrid, the Mommy and Me class and the Nourish-HER program. So you can do it online, you could do it in person if you're local in town and want to come to the Pure facility.
Okay.
And if you are in the Nourish-HER program, the Mommy and Me class is actually part of the program itself. So it's complimentary within that.
All
so
right.
that's pretty awesome.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, and then, Mommy and Me, what type of, I'm assuming that you're not having, a little toddler coming in and doing squats, right?
No. Well, I think the idea is really,
Go for it.
my 2-year-old loves doing squats.
Okay.
He sees me grab out the kettlebell
And their
stuff.
form
He's
is usually pretty darn good.
Right. They're not
immaculate.
Yeah.
I know. I want to take a picture of him and be like, this is what a squat looks like right here.
All the way down.
Children of all ages. And I know for new mothers, especially, it's, you want to get back into your body. You want to get back. You feel like an alien to yourself, really, having a child. None of you have experienced that.
Shot of my will.
But it's a really wild paradigm shifting experience.
Okay.
So I think being in a group, in an environment where, people understand where you're at, and I don't know, you get to use your baby to work out. The cool thing about using babies to work out too is it's natural progressive overload. So,
As they,
yeah.
Was it
18 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep wrapping it up.
Wasn't it Mila did that? Yeah, a bull, it started as a calf and every day lifted it up and carried it.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah.
I got to think a lot of that's myth, though.
Well, we've got some baby cows here. Maybe I should start trying it now. So,
Yeah.
You'll be at 1,200 pounds in no time.
Bring your calf to class. Yeah.
so hybrid program, that's really neat. So they can join online and do it over an internet connection or do it in person.
Yeah.
Or I assume they could come both, do some one, some the other, depending on how their schedules work.
So what it's going to look like is there's going to be a module released every week. So there's 6 modules.
Okay.
And we cover things from mindset to nutrition to pelvic floor and core to, you name it. And then also at the beginning, we go through I don't want to say lengthy, but it's an in-depth assessment process, right? We're doing pelvic floor assessments. We're doing squat assessments. We're doing postural assessments. We're doing like a normal PAR-Q health history type thing. I really want to get to know who I'm working with. And then I provide everybody with their own training program. So they have their fitness laid out for them. And then they come to the classes every week, whether it be online or in person. There's 2 offered. So it's flexible. So you have a time in the morning, one day during the week, and you have a time maybe in the evening, so, it's more involved, more people can.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, is this a program that you guys have developed or adapted? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's impressive.
Hot off the press.
Press. I'm excited.
Cool. I haven't heard anything, anything like this in our area. So it's really neat that you guys are offering that and some unique. I was going to step back real quick though and talk about now, Ariel, you're the new owner of Pure, right? You've been, how long has it been now?
So officially it's been a month and a half.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Since March.
All right.
Yeah.
So, and that all going well. I know you've been we talked a little bit before. You're pretty excited about, some of the directions you want to take Pure and everything.
Yeah.
Cause it's been a mainstay in our community. And I know that, a lot of people really like the connections that they made, taking classes there. I mean, you guys offer, all kinds of different classes, right?
Yeah. So we've got yoga, we've got a body tone class, which is kind of like a cardio and strength class. We've got personal training as well. And then we've got a great community of, founding members as well as existing members, where everyone can kind of hang out and really approach fitness as they want to.
Okay.
It's really not trying to push any agenda. We really want to make sure that we're providing a holistic program for everybody's needs. So what works for somebody in the geriatric community might not work for somebody who's a young athlete, and we respect that.
Okay.
And so we want to make sure that we're providing resources for everybody on the spectrum, not just trying to say that this is the one way to do it. You can only do 400-pound squats if you come in and work out with us. It's like we're going to start you from where you're at, and we can really transition you to wherever you need to go.
All right.
Do you have any plans to change any of the structure and some of the equipment that you guys have there at the facility now?
I mean, really with the equipment, it's going to be purpose built. So we're going to try to provide the best results we can with the equipment that we have, and then start to phase out some of the older equipment, things like that. So I think that's going to be a natural transition. I'm kind of a techie. I want to see if we can get like a tonal in there or get like a big squat rack. But we want to make sure that we're also catering to people's needs.
Yeah.
So if people want to have cardio equipment there, that's going to limit your space on some of the other equipment there. So we just want to be respectful of what equipment's being used, and then kind of phase it in as we need to.
Gotcha.
I was really excited about something. I don't know if this was offered before, but I saw it on your website.
Okay.
You guys are offering like a day pass now, right?
Yeah.
That's super cool. I don't know if it was there before, but that really stood out to me. I was traveling recently back home to where I'm from in Kansas. And I was looking for a gym, to do a drop in, I just wanted to, go and get a couple workouts in, and I couldn't find any place that was, offering, just a day pass. Everybody wanted, all the information about signing up for a membership and everything. But so I think that's really, really cool. And, we'll probably, cater to some of the transient, the people, the tourists and things that come through, or people that want to come in and, just try it out and see what Pure is all about. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, whenever I go on vacation, the first thing I'm looking is where's the nearest.
Yeah.
If it's not in the hotel, it's got to be somewhere nearby. And it's got to be easy to get to and accessible and everything like that, and have enough equipment for what you need. So, yes, we started offering the day pass. We're getting a new access control system, so you can get in through a PIN code or a QR code, or however we set that up. So, for any travelers in the area, we'll create a quick link. If you're in an Airbnb, all you need to do is pull up your phone, get a PIN code, and you're in the gym, and you can pay online and everything like that. So provide all the information.
Is that 24-hour access?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
Very
your
cool.
accessibility.
Yeah.
Accessibility and parking.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that's very exciting. Yeah, and you guys are located right in town, right? Yeah, right in the heart of town.
Yeah.
Over by the courthouse on Bullion Street.
Yep, it's part of the founding city block of Mariposa, so right across from the courthouse. Yeah.
So that's awesome. All right. Well, Mel, what's your background here? Come on, spill.
Yeah. So I'm from Ohio. I was born and raised in Ohio, and I moved out to Arizona when I was like 25, something around those lines. And I moved out to Mariposa on accident.
Oops.
Happy little accident. Yeah. Happy little accident. And I fell in love with Mariposa instantly, actually. I felt this draw that I just can't even explain. But I originally came out here to buy a converted ambulance off somebody in Mid Pines, and that didn't work out, but I'm a skydiver, so I ended up at the drop zone. That's local as well. And I met some people, and one of the tandem instructors was like, I have a bus for sale. So I bought the bus and moved into the bus.
Nice.
And
Nice.
yeah, so that's kind of that story. And then I got pregnant and had my beautiful son Arrow, and I don't live in the bus anymore, but I still have it, and I want to build it out again.
Nice.
Kind of went through this phase of, what do they call that, nesting, when I was pregnant. I was like, let's rip everything out and start over. I haven't started over.
And so, like, are we talking like school bus?
It's an old Kaiser Permanente bus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
All right.
so not as big as a school bus,
Okay.
but pretty much the same gist. So city bus is what that is. But yeah, so as far as my background in health and fitness and wellness, I started, when I was in my teens, like early teens. We were talking about it a little bit earlier, kind of struggling with mental health, depression, anxiety, those sorts of things, normal teenager things, I think, that unfortunately aren't talked about. But, in my search for trying to feel better, I was going to doctors and they were prescribing me this medication and this medication. And it's like, oh my God, these things make me feel worse. I was in like a suicidal phase at that rate. Right. So, I ended up not liking the medications, got off those, but I was like, what can I do? Right. So I ended up going to a therapist and she introduced me to CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and mindfulness. So I found a meditation routine, and in the midst of this, I was, experimenting with working out. I got a personal trainer for my very first time, I think in 2013. Still a great friend of mine, Nathan Cox. He's absolutely amazing in Ohio. But yeah, joined a gym with some friends, because joining a gym at first would kind of be scary at first.
Yeah, it's not that.
Totally. So started with friends, and we split the bill with the personal training, and I stuck with it, and then fell in love with fitness. And at the time too, I was like chain smoking cigarettes, like completely 180 with lifestyle habits, right? But I think that's what it's all about. So that's where the journey started, and it's progressed, and I became a personal trainer, a holistic health and wellness coach through Institute of Integrative Nutrition. I since then have acquired tons of certifications and keeping my personal training certification. I'm a corrective exercise specialist. I do assisted stretching with my clients as well. I do, behavior coaching, behavior change specialist. I think that certification was pre and postnatal certification, mindfulness, meditation certifications.
You've been busy.
Works. Yeah, I love learning.
incredible.
I love learning. And I'm obsessed with health, wellness, nutrition, all of it. So that's the gist.
That's the good gist. And it's just, we've talked.
See the details.
Right. The long form. We are only an hour show. So yeah, that's incredible. And, we've talked a little bit about this before, the mind body connection, and how much, getting your physical body can in order. It doesn't have to be necessarily in shape, but in order, and regular exercise is so beneficial mentally. And, I found that personally.
Oh my God, it's everything.
Yeah, it makes such a difference, in the day. So, day to day, but long term as well.
Yeah.
So
I want to be able to keep doing the things I'm doing when I'm 80, 90. I reposted on social media the other day. I think it was like this 90-year-old woman doing gymnastics. I'm like, that's who I want to be when I grow up.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about that, the health span versus lifespan. These days with modern technology, everybody can have a pretty long lifespan generally, but your health span, how long you're able to get out and do what you want to do, be active, from gardening to hiking to, whatever, vacation.
Yeah.
But, it's so important, and exercise is just the cornerstone of that, combined with the other, getting good sleep, getting, reasonable nutrition. I'm kind of an 80% of the time kind of guy with nutrition, every once in a while I like cheesecake, but yeah,
Get me wrong.
but yeah, most of the time trying to eat relatively healthy. So, and just, that long-term outlook, like you said, want to be 80 or 90 years old and still out there doing gymnastics. So, all right, Steve, you had a couple of good things.
So my college background is political science and philosophy. So I'm always curious about like people's philosophy and like kind of the underpinnings and stuff. So I was kind of curious what your most influential, who is most influential to you for your philosophy and methodologies that you ascribe to?
Oh, I have a laundry list of people.
Who's the first one that comes to mind?
Jordan Peterson.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
His book, 12 Rules for Life, really changed my life in like a paradigm shifting way when I was moving from Ohio to Arizona by myself. And it was just, I've never done anything like that, right? So it was just a really instrumental book. And I love his talks. And I think I don't agree with like everything he says, but we don't have to agree with everything somebody says.
Right.
To respect them and get a lot out of what they have to say. But he's totally one. Eckhart Tolle, the Mind Pump crew. Freaking love Mind Pump. Yeah. So that's just to name a few, and I'm sure you've got your fair share.
Training background. I I like powerlifting. Like
Yeah.
you mentioned super
Big
training,
pickles.
Yeah.
but a lot of that.
Copy of it right here.
Yeah, a lot of that,
I
like
carry it with me like almost
whole,
everywhere.
like Soviet bloc
Yeah.
training, like heavy training every day, like high intensity, relatively low volume, but spread out throughout the week. It's relatively high volume. As far as nutrition, try to keep it holistic. But yeah, as far as like philosophy, like Stoic philosophy, Marcus
Really?
Aurelius, and
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
you know, those
Meditation.
guys.
Brent asked me on another episode, like, what book do you gift the most often? And my answer was
Meditations.
Epictetus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everything.
Okay.
Discourses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I gift meditations, and then another one that I always gift is Paulo Coelho, The Alchemist. Oh, that's such a good
That
book.
is
It's
good.
not, yeah.
he did. Did he do the Four Agreements?
No, that was
Miguel Ruiz.
yeah. Those are also really great.
Yeah.
Get those mixed up.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you kind of talked about it a little bit, your transition and stuff. Like, what else, I guess, would you want to add to like what inspired you to really to share this with other people?
Yeah, I think it's ever changing too. But initially speaking, I think it was just the power that I saw it had in me and changing the direction that my life was going.
Yeah.
That made me be like, wow, more people need to know about this. Like, this is insanely imperative information. And, I don't know what the outlook of my life would have been like had I not jumped into that rabbit hole of wellness and nutrition and fitness and all of that fun stuff. Hiring coaches has been an instrumental part of my growth and maybe not like dying, So
Yeah, for real.
yeah,
Wow.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes it's literally that severe of a fork in the road of like, okay, if I do this, this road leads to death.
Right.
yeah.
And this
I mean,
road leads
either
to
way, we're
life.
headed to death.
Well, I mean,
I hear you. Yeah.
Farther
Yeah.
off in the distance there.
Yeah. No, totally. Yeah.
the
That's
stoic is coming out
absolutely
and
Yeah.
appreciate that. Memento mori for sure.
Right.
right. No, but that's totally right. I mean, you have set a lot of different directions you can go in life, and that's the direction that I chose. And I want everybody to know, like, hey, it's going to be okay. And, just focus on these foundations and you can enjoy life,
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's just everybody you talk to who's gone through these types of journeys, and I've done that. Ariel, I heard your interview with Jean Ann, a little bit about your history that she did with you on the radio show, on her radio show. So, it's just life changing. And you just, like you're talking about, you just want to be able to share that with everybody. And it's like, sometimes shake them a little bit. It's like, hey, you can change your life this way.
I think fitness is a great way to get out of your own head and really be objective about the problems and the circumstances in your life. You more consider them as circumstances rather than this is my life.
Right.
You can say these are circumstances. I can change it. Like if your health is a circumstance where you go to the doctor and they say you're going to need to be on medication for the rest of your life, that's just a circumstance for a period of time right now. You could change that in the future.
Right.
The same thing with anything, health, wealth, spiritual, financial. I mean, all those things can be changed if you apply a plan and start doing the research and, actually commit to a practice.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of our last guests, one of your clients, that we had on, he reversed his type 2 diabetes. He got off his pain medications.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, it was just
a delight.
Yeah. And so, proof positive. And again, we've all kind of gone through, similar experiences, it seems like. And you hear the story time and time again, the hero's journey, there's like 7 major arcs of the hero's journey, but so a lot of times you can talk to the other people. It's like, oh, I relate to what you're saying. I've been through that too. And then you've got people out there and it's like, well, they might not be there yet, but trust us, anybody, can do this to some extent. You can change your life and
Yes.
improve it for the better through health, fitness, wellness. So
Absolutely.
I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are on integration of like technology stuff. I know you said you were kind of techie.
He's the tech guy.
Yeah. But like, so balancing out like this kind of holistic approach where you're thinking about, mind, body, spirit, so to speak, and technology. So like mindfulness and technology are somewhat, opposed to each other. So
Right.
like, what are your thoughts on, integrating technology and stuff into your overall philosophy?
I mean, I think you need to find a practice that works without technology, and then you can implement technology on top of it to maybe optimize or improve. So I think if you build a fitness routine that's solely based on, well, I got to have my watch to do a workout, I got to have this app or this, piece of equipment to do my workout, or else I can't do it. That's not true. I mean, people have been wrestling, and working out since, the Greeks and things like that.
You can use a rock.
And it works great. So I think adding technology on top of that to give you some additional insight is definitely beneficial. Like in endurance training, there's GPS, there's trackers, there's, heart rate monitors, there's all kinds of gizmos and gadgets for that. There's in the strength world, you've got, if you've seen some of the college, performance facilities, they've got sensors hooked up to everything. I've worked with baseball teams and things like that where they've got everything has a sensor on it. They've got pages and pages and spreadsheets of data on how fast you did this and that. I think that's beneficial, but I think unless you have a team around it, like a coach who can actually analyze the data for you, some of it might not be relevant, or you might be looking at the wrong metrics, or you apply some sort of meaning to this metric when you're ignoring some other metric that might be more important. So I think you have to use a balanced approach. I think, fitness trackers and things like that, it's a good gimmick. I don't think it's accurate as far as like all the calorie metrics and things like that, but
way off.
As far as incentive to like go track a workout,
yeah,
that's definitely worth it. Heart rate monitor, if you're into like, zone 2 cardio training, things like that, those are beneficial. I know you're working on like the sauna app as well. It's, it's like an easy way for you to keep a library of your progress. And so I think that's where it becomes most beneficial.
And make it more accessible. I love like to go back to the mindfulness and meditation, like apps to help with like guided meditations and stuff. So that's where like technology can become really cool. And like you said, it's just finding the right routine for you. And
do you have a favorite? Like, have you used Headspace?
That's my favorite. I've been using that since I think they came out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then that's not what's his name? Is it
Andy something?
Okay, yeah. There's another one I'm thinking of. Well, I'll put it in the show notes when I remember it. So he's a famous philosopher, and I'm blanking on his name right now. Modern day philosopher now. Sam Harris.
That's the 10% happier guy, right?
No. Maybe. Maybe. But he's got his own meditation.
If only we had a handheld device where we
look up anything. You see the technology. Yeah.
We need the guy in the background on the Google.
Yeah.
Right. We're
Jamie.
We get that reference.
If you guys get that reference.
So that was the one I was thinking of. And I used it for a year, but
Dan Harris, 10% happier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Harris was
Sam Harris
Sam Harris is atheist philosopher.
Right.
Him and Jordan Peterson had a really cool debate.
That was a great discussion. We actually found some interesting common ground. It was a great discussion.
Yeah.
For me, technology wise, or what I hear from a lot of people, like with Fitbits and things like that, what they really like, if you're a little competitive, which I am, is it's nice to, get in some of those groups and like for your step count or, that it gives you a little bit of that accountability.
Yeah.
And so we've talked about the accountability before, and trainers are great and everything, but sometimes just that social aspect of it. You talked about joining a gym with friends, but the technology and the way it can connect us, as bad as social media, we're all told social media is and everything, it's just another tool. And if you use it right, it can give you that extra, incentive and make sure that it's like, all right, well, Bob got his 20,000 steps in today. I better, I'm only at 13,000. I'm going to at least get close. So
I'll add a caveat to that though. So one of my, somebody that I'm close to, had this like obsessive compulsive drive, like, oh, I haven't hit my steps. And she would like get up in like the middle of the night. Like it's 11 o'clock. I've got an hour. And she's like pacing around the room. And it's like, yeah, I mean, David Goggins might love it, but
right.
I don't know. There's like kind of to your point about balance, right? Like I think it might be a little bit too like so having like a healthy relationship with that competitiveness is difficult, and it's a moving target. So you got to kind of constantly be aware of like, okay, how obsessive am I about this thing? But then again, like that being said, the best in the world are obsessive. So, but we're all lay people,
Right.
We're not competing for world titles and stuff. So it's like, I don't know if waking up at 11 o'clock at night to get an extra 1,000 steps.
Well, I think adding constraints around your fitness and your fitness goals. I mean, adding constraints around anything, because there's going to be real world constraints around anything. So psychologically creating constraints around your fitness. So if my goal is, 10,000 steps for today, how can I get 5,000 before noon? It's like, maybe do it that way instead of saying, all right, well, I'm just going to wait till midnight.
Right.
I think it's beneficial for people to see where they're at, and then they can build and make progress from there. But
I agree with that. I think that's a much better way to look at it, is like, how did I do? Okay, what can I do different next time?
Yeah.
And plan a little bit better and like structure my day a little bit different or something like that, to that effect, versus like the anxiety and the panic of like, I got to get 1,000 steps in. I've got 2 minutes. I got to get 20 more steps in. Come on.
At midnight, because it resets. Yeah.
So
So your body is low on sleep, and you didn't probably eat right, and it's like,
I've heard stories of people like you were talking about, but like being at like a hotel and then just walking up and down, to get their step count in, go out in the hallway and walk up and down just to get the step count in. It's like, you're in a hotel, you're done, but, get that last few hundred steps or whatever they need just to hit, this imaginary number.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a balance though, right. Like I can definitely appreciate, like, hey, you're dedicated, you're doing what you can with what you got. And if walking the hallway is all you got, then walk the hallway. Like,
right.
Or even between sets, I've been known to like walk in between sets to get my step count in. Yeah.
So for me, I was a big road cyclist for a lot of years, and so there was the saying Strava or it didn't happen.
Right.
So Strava is, a lot of runners and cyclists record their routes on there.
Video or it didn't happen.
Right. And so, and you get into that mindset, and there's actually a whole book about this called Unplugged, that talks about our reliance or our addiction to our Fitbits, to our GPS devices for tracking those runs and everything, and how, it encourages you to really view those as a tool and not get too upset if you're out and your battery dies on your GPS, while you're doing a ride. You still did, it dies halfway through a 30 or 50 mile ride. You still did those miles, you're still getting that benefit, for yourself. So it's being able to disconnect from that a little bit. It can be motivational. You can take it too far. And so it's just being mindful.
Balance.
Yeah. Right. Being mindful about what it's all really about. So.
Yeah. It's a moving target is what it comes down to, is like, because there are times and there are occasions where you do need to be disciplined and like walk the hallway and get those steps in, make it happen. That kind of attitude of like, make it happen, which is anyway. But at the same time, I would advocate for like not beating yourself up for not hitting the mark, but like without emotion, looking at, okay, how did I do? What can I do different? And okay, let's take a step towards that. And so it's like, it's both. And like with the Strava stuff, like I immediately think of, are you doing it for your ego and bragging rights and posting rights and like the social stuff, doing it for the Insta, or are you really doing it for yourself, for your own, health and longevity and wellness and stuff? So it's like
changes the outcome big time.
Yeah, Strava is definitely more competitive than I would say like a fitness tracker.
I don't know Strava. You guys are talking.
Okay.
It's like mostly endurance.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like you're all linked up and you can see each other's mileage.
And you can join different clubs, and then, like as a cyclist, it would track your total miles, like on a weekly basis, on an annual basis, and compare, against other people in the club. And, again, it can be motivating, but I definitely fell into the trap of, just getting the miles in, being upset at the GPS if it wasn't charged, when I was out for a ride and it dies or something like that.
Beat yourself up.
Yeah. And so, reading the book Unplugged, really that book brought me back down to earth a little bit, to the point where I would just go out, even, it's like, I'm just going to go for a ride. I don't need the GPS. I don't need the electronics. I would just go out and go for a ride.
I got rid of my Fitbit a long time ago. Not that there's anything wrong with them.
Right.
I just, I think that sometimes you can over rely on a specific tool, and then, I don't know. I think there's also maybe some negative implications to having something like continuously strapped. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, just, like technology is great and all. And then sometimes it's can be detrimental. But
I had to get the GPS. That was one of the things I wanted.
yeah, no
I didn't
map
want to be
quest
like
for you.
on a trail run and
Is that the
get lost.
Samsung or Garmin or
This is a Garmin 550 or something like that, Forerunner.
Okay.
But essentially it gives turn-by-turn directions. So if you're hiking or trail running,
Cool.
you don't get lost in the wilderness.
Maybe
Rescue is
I don't
taking
have
your
to-
body out of a ditch.
Yeah.
That is a good thing in our area for sure.
absolutely.
But I think fitness trackers are really helpful for
They keep-
building
yeah.
habits that are sustainable, but at first you might not be aware of it. Like, oh, I get an extra couple hundred steps when I park further away from the grocery store. It's like, can I do that every day?
Which is a great
I-
tip for more steps.
Yeah.
Right.
Just
It's like,
park further.
what can I do in my daily life that just increases my
Uh-huh.
overall activity?
Got to
Yeah,
run errands
great
in
place to
town.
start.
Use that as your walking time. That's what I do. It's an amazing hack. And you just park at Sticks
Yeah.
Coffee and then walk all the way around town. Get your
Right.
steps in. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to live right in town and it was great. You know, I could walk over to the gym,
everywhere.
walk to the grocery store, take off on a bike ride. Yeah. It was great. So a little more isolated out here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then what tips do you guys have for, I'd say maybe more rural living or
That's
you
a
don't
good
have
question.
as much access to maybe a paved road or something like that?
That's a very good question.
I think what you do is you get yourself a big building and you build yourself a gym and
Build a home gym.
right.
Yeah.
So we have a route, like we have a neighbor who has an 80-acre ranch, right next to us that we take our dogs for a walk on. So, we walk on the highway a little bit. It's not particularly safe. One of the reasons I got out of road cycling is because of the little ridges that they've added along the side of the highways here.
Rumble strips.
Yeah, and that's right where I used to like to ride because you're not all the way in the curb where all the glass and stuff builds up where you get punctures and you're not out on the road with let's face it, we're in a tourist area.
RVs.
Yeah, and they're not always the
Buses.
right.
It's narrow and long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really narrow.
So it just for me it got a little more unsafe out here to do the right road cycling.
Got to find the right roads.
But honestly, I mean, we are so close to Yosemite. There's hiking trails in town. We're only 10 minutes away from town here. So
Reservoir is a great place.
Yeah.
right, and so that's those hiking trails there. Again, it comes down to just you got to make a little bit of an effort, right? I think.
I think that's part of rural living in general. Is like everything just takes a little bit more effort.
Right.
Yeah.
Going to the grocery store is just a little bit more than like if you live down in the valley or something where it's drive over there any time of day real quick and but like anywhere you run outside is going to be hills.
Yeah.
Right.
Like because we're in the mountains, so
Yes.
like you're going for a hill run regardless of where
Right.
you go. So that's just part of the deal too. But I started doing I found like a little when I first moved here, there was like just this little dirt hill, and I would like just do hill sprints to try to get some cardio in. Obviously, I don't do much of that anymore, but and then like there's where I live, the roads are super narrow and they're all kind of beat up, and like people drive way too fast in there and stuff. And so
They're dusting you when you're going for a walk.
yeah, it can get kind of sketchy and stuff. So I don't even do it, to be honest. I don't even go outside to do that stuff unless I'm at the reservoir, like someplace that's out, like off the road. I'm gonna use the gym equipment to like get any of that stuff in now because I just don't trust drivers from my day job.
Right. Yeah.
Like this is not happening.
I think there's lots of ways though if you're willing to put a little thought and effort into.
Yeah, but I mean, these are the realities. Like, people have kids. People live in a place where maybe they might get hit by a car. It's like going for a walk just might not be the easiest thing.
Treadmills.
In your head, you're like, oh, I should just go for a walk. Like that's going to be my solution. I've seen a lot of fitness transformations where it's like, oh, I just started eating better and I started moving my body, and like, next thing you know, I'm like down 40 pounds.
Right.
Like, you don't have to do anything to do that. So I think you're right. You have to be more intentional about how you approach things, but it's definitely not off the table.
Yeah, for sure. I think absolutely. You just have to be a little more intentional, especially in our community where it's not just right off the street. You just run on the sidewalk, Yeah. So
And I just wanted to mention too, when we're talking about the reservoir, we're talking about, it's called Stockton Creek Reservoir.
Yeah.
It's up behind the high school in Mariposa. And
It's
there's great
horrible.
hiking.
Don't go there.
No.
There's several different great hiking trails. There's a nice flat route, but then there's a couple, and then there's one that's got a little hilly that they added across the river. And then there's the upper trail, which is the one I always used to do when I lived in town. And so, yeah, Stockton Creek is a great resource for our area.
Yeah,
So,
it's nice.
so yeah.
Let's switch gears a little bit. Talk nutrition. Give me your nutrition philosophies because I'm French, man.
Yeah, we were talking about this on the way
Yeah, we said
here.
Steve's off in the car.
Yeah, we were talking.
But I saw that Quest bar, so I don't know.
I know. So truth be told is I'm right, like lately, gosh, probably, so April's a rough month for me. Like the first part of April is just emotionally and like so I'll just tell you guys. My brother committed suicide April 15th, and my daughter's birthday is April 16th. And so it's just a ball of emotions. And like my brother died 13 years ago, and my daughter just turned 12. So it's a weird month for me. Like, and then my brother's birthday is in February 14th, which is awesome for girls that I'm dating. So I'm like, I'm just gonna sit at home.
We're not going anywhere.
Yeah, but like trying to switch gears and like honor my brother and still like also, you know, honor my daughter's birthday, and like switching gears is challenging, and then Valentine's Day is a little bit challenging for me. So like that being said, that's my excuse, so to speak. Early April is typically like I'm not 100% on my diet. I'm not 100% on my workout programs and stuff, and so I kind of like reduce the volume, reduce the intensity, reduce my expectations, and arguably I'm setting myself up for the whole experience. But I also just like have noticed that sometimes it just like I have these emotions and it just sneaks up on me. I'm like, oh, it's April 15th. That kind of explains why I'm in a little bit of a funk. And like the death of my brother was very difficult, and it's the sting of that has reduced. So it's like a more it's not as sharp, but I miss my brother, you know, like he was brilliant and funny and like witty and just super observant. He was a great guy. And there's so many times where I want to share stuff with him. And it's not like, you know, in the early days, it was like, oh, I'm going to call it. Oh, that's awkward. But now it's kind of like, oh man, I wish I could share this experience with him, or this thing, and you know, him to meet my daughter and see he never met her and stuff. And it's like, you know, she does things. I'm like, oh, Chad would think that's like awesome or hilarious, or you know, have something witty to say that I could never think of. But anyway, that being said, I do advocate carnivore 100%, absolutely. But
Brings it back around.
the last 2-3 weeks, I've been like not totally off the rails, but like not as diligent as I normally am and stuff. And I also, you know, I know a lot of people like variety and they want to change things up, and that's kind of a hindrance sometimes with their nutrition. For me, I can eat the same thing every day, multiple times a day. Doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Doesn't bother me at all for long periods of time. And then I might want to change it up a little bit, but it's not a huge change. But so as you know, I'm a carnivore advocate for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've done everything on the spectrum from carnivore, keto, all the way to like, you know, plant-based juice diet. So, I mean, I've tried everything under the sun, I think, only to come back to probably just need whole foods, maybe some processed foods here and there. Like you said, 80-20 rule on food. I think nutrition is going to be the big rock in anybody's fitness journey. It's like, you can't really get started without a great foundation as far as nutrition is concerned. Like, you can start hitting the weights and still be on processed food and things like that, but you're just not going to get the results that you want, and definitely not as quick. Like if we put you on a whole food diet and then we put you on a strength program, you're going to have way better results than if you're still eating, you know, whatever junk food or processed
mentally
food.
too. Yeah. I feel like a lot in like the bodybuilding space and stuff, it's like kind of advocating like these cheat days where you eat like whole pizzas and donuts and like all these things, but it's like, what is the implications of like the internal you that's having? Like, can you get a beautiful, amazing Greek god body from eating crap food? Absolutely. But is that really the most advantageous for?
And it goes again to, I mean, you know, that can have negative health effects, even if it's not physically. You can look like you're in great shape, but there's guys who, I mean, you see it a lot
blood
with people.
on.
Yeah. And guys that look like they're in great shape and they play around a racquetball and they kill over from a heart attack or, things of this nature. You see it, there's bodybuilders, a lot of them, of course, have done, steroids and things like that. Again, they look amazing, but internally they've really compromised themselves.
Yeah.
And, it's easy to do with food. It's so readily available to us.
Yeah.
So like you said, I mean, big advocate for, whole foods as much as possible. We talked, I think a little bit, didn't we talk about how not really using like food as a reward?
Yeah.
We
Try to get away from it
that.
being a punishment reward system.
Yeah, change the mindset around it. I think to answer your question, like, you're anticipating having this hard time of the year, and it's like, I think it's giving ourselves grace and self-compassion where it's like, we don't always have to be dialed in and like, that's okay. And like, there's other aspects of our health that's just as important as the nutrition aspect. Yes, it's absolutely important. It cannot change the game. Sure. And also I think that we can't get too hung up over being like overly obsessed with eating a specific way. Circumstances change, we change. And I think it's all about finding what's best for you specifically and what works in your lifestyle. And that's where like a coach can be really beneficial too. We break down what your lifestyle looks like, and it's somebody that's giving an outside looking in perspective and can kind of see things a little bit differently and help plan things out for you. Okay, Susie's birthday's coming up. It's okay that you have a cupcake with Susie. Like, that's cool. Like, we don't have to beat ourselves up. And, this is a month of like, respite and like turning inward for you. And
it's kind of a winter season, right? Like where things are, dying.
Yeah. And growth. Growth comes from that. And I think it's too like anticipating that you could kind of like set yourself up for success if you really wanted to. Like maybe you meal prep some food that you put in the freezer so it's like readily available. So when you're feeling like low energy and like bummed out, like you have that to go to, So I think it's just kind of going back to like planning ahead. Or I think the biggest thing is I think we beat ourselves up too much and we have too high of at least me, like too high of expectations, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, we're going off the road, but then if you're going off the road, you don't have to like choose to crash into the tree. You just like recorrect, and it's like, okay, we're back on the road and you're good to go. But I think just being kind to yourself and allowing yourself that space to.
Yeah. That's one of Jordan Peterson's rules, right?
Yeah.
Treat yourself as someone you love and care about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely interesting walking down the journey because your identity changes as you get more involved in fitness and your goals. So, what might have been acceptable before in kind of your previous state or whatever that would be, as far as nutrition is concerned, now you attach your self-worth to your current plan.
Yeah.
And I think that could be a slippery slope.
Very slippery.
So if you say, oh, my adherence was off for this week or for one day, you can't really attach your self-worth just to that. You can't just say, oh, now I'm a piece of junk because I didn't follow my diet for this week or
that's
for this day. So
absolutely.
I think being, again, like you said, kind to yourself, having grace around the overall plan. Like, are you on the upward trajectory that you wanted to? And don't beat yourself on the upside.
Yeah. And I think it can have the opposite effect when we're trying to like be too, I don't know. It's that whole idea of if you tell somebody not to push a red button, it's the only thing on their.
I got it.
You have to push the red button.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. So it's like if you restrict yourself so much,
What?
or if you're like so strict on a specific routine and regimen, it can have the opposite effect where like now you're binging and now you're eating more of the thing that you would have just like had one of if you would have just been like, I want to eat a cookie, and that's like
Reese's
freaking
peanut
fine.
butter cup.
Mel, I know you're big on what can we add in.
Protein.
Add in. So
Absolutely.
I think
Protein.
giving yourself grace around like food groups or certain meals, be like, all right, well, this is like free food. Like I could have as much veggies
Beef.
or, whatever you could have as much lean beef
My
as you
favorite
wanted or
ground
whatever.
beef, absolutely.
Fat beef, baby.
Yeah. Buy steaks, you can have as much.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But I think, again, creating those roadblocks around certain foods, but also saying, hey, it's not necessarily off limits.
Yeah.
It's just, we want to hit
I
these
think
first.
it's more adding in what you know will get the ball rolling. Instead of focusing on what can I take out, it's what can I add in, and naturally the
junk
bad
stuff falls
stuff,
out.
it falls out, so I think that's the idea there. But most people can eat more protein.
No, yeah, 100%. I want to talk to a little bit something that you guys we've all kind of said is like having some grace with yourself, especially when you're like with Strava, whether it's tracking stuff or nutrition stuff, and like as I showed about my brother, like having some grace with yourself in these different seasons and periods of life, or whatever it is. My struggle is balancing the grace and like the discipline and intensity that I know is necessary to like get to where I'm trying to go. You know what I mean? So like finding that balance, it's like the stoic ideas of, like amorpha tea, where, it's kind of like the attitude of like to love your fate. Right. And to me, there's like I struggle with that. That's a Nietzsche phrase, but like the idea is like, how do I balance like, okay, this is my fate, or this is my, this is what happened, and I have some grace with myself, but I'm also like, okay, you're better than this. Like you can do better, you can do more, but also having that grace, like that I struggle with that.
I definitely have an all-in personality.
Black
Yeah.
and white,
And it sounds like
totally.
you kind of have that too.
Yeah.
It's like if I'm not 100%,
You suck. No.
your self-talk is
Yeah.
your self-talk
Totally.
in your head is like, okay, well, I have a more negative view of myself because I didn't do this. And I think you have to be realistic with yourself about adherence. Like you can't say that 20% adherence is good. Like in nobody's book is that good.
Right.
But you say, did I hit 80% this week? Okay. Then I'm going to have some grace with myself. If I'm at 50%, I'm saying, okay, what needs improvement? Is there going to be things in my week? It's like, am I letting somebody get to me and that's affecting my emotional state? And now I want to, forget the workout, or we'll do it after work, and then it doesn't happen. It's like you get off your routine or something like that, or you have some stress in the family. So I think those are all natural things. But being able to be realistic with yourself, be like, okay, well, I'm going to need to hit these macros if you're tracking macros, or I'm going to need to, structure my meals in a certain way, or I'm going to need to get these lifts in for me to be able to say that it was a successful week. I think you go by the week, you don't go by the day, because you have to kind of have to roll with the punches on that. But
There's too many small fluctuations in the day.
Yeah.
And, for self-talk, I just want to interject, one of the things is they tell you to talk to yourself like you would talk to your best friend, right? You're not going to, usually most of us are not going to, be really negative. Oh, you really screwed up. Oh, you can't do anything right. Ariel, what are you thinking?
is that how you motivate your best
Right.
friend?
And on the friend. But you've got to kind of have that grace with yourself, and I always think of the chart, there's it's an infographic, and it's like, what people think success looks like. And it's like a straight line, up from
But it's
left to
actually
right.
like-
And then they say what success actually looks like.
Yeah.
And it's a mountain range, up and down, up and down.
And
Sometimes it's circles.
Right.
Circling up.
Spirals. Yeah. And everybody's definition of success looks so vastly different too. And
So
it's definitely a struggle of like, okay, setting the bar up here, but also knowing like when to have that self-compassion and grace, and, let yourself have breaks and whatnot. And I think that it comes back to mindfulness and like knowing yourself. And
So what do you think about structuring in more
I think
disciplined or
honestly,
intense periods of training?
I think absolutely it's a good idea to structure in those times and to know your own rhythms and patterns and stuff, because we're cyclical beings, right? And especially for women, we have periods, right? And these are cyclical things. So I know that on day one of my period, I may be less energetic than on other days. So I can plan ahead of time, and like with how you feel in the month of April, you can plan for when you're higher energy and when you're lower energy. And then when you plan into your day or into your week or into your month, what you know to be true for your own patterns, then it's really like a no-brainer. It's like,
you kind of get, planned that grace in. It's like, I know I'm going to be down here, and that's okay because I know I'll come through it and, get back on track.
but there is the other side of like, okay, well, am I preemptively planning my, it's like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was talking about. Like,
Yeah,
I think I need to take a deload week. I haven't worked out in 6 months. But
Yeah.
yeah. It's like planning it. Am I setting myself up for that expectation for the self-fulfilling prophecy that like, okay, this week's going to be terrible.
Yeah.
Because I'm planning like, okay, the week of the 15th it was going to be tough, and then the 16th we're going to like celebrate. We're going to have an awesome little birthday for my daughter and have a good time.
Yeah.
And like So am I setting myself up for that to be a self-fulfilling prophecy? Like that's also kind of a weird
Maybe.
balance.
I think too that we should have like non-negotiables, right? Like there should be things in our days where it's just like it's a non-negotiable. I know that for my mental health, I need to have a walk every day. I know for my mental health that I need to have like this amount of protein a day. I know for, me to feel good in my body that I need this type of workout today. So I think it's like staying true to the foundations and like no matter what's going on in life, sticking to those things that work for you. But yeah, knowing when to pull back, knowing when to plan a vacation, I think it's important to just know yourself and get familiar with what your rhythms and patterns are and not self-sabotage yourself in the meantime.
So then what's your take on kind of veering more towards a more regimented, more structured program as kind of the baseline, and then we work people up to that versus saying, this is what you need to do, this needs to be 100%.
It's meeting people where they're at.
Yeah.
It's like we have that in-depth conversation about like, okay, what's your life look like right now? Like, what are your stressors? What are things that, get you down? What, who are you? What are, all these things. And it's like planning ahead of time and then you build your way up. You can't go balls to the wall right off the bat, right? So
it looks good on the magazine.
Right, but
60 days.
it doesn't work long term. And I think that we're in the long term game. Yeah, right? Yeah, we're in the long term game. It's all about sustainability and setting your future self up for success and meeting people where they're at, like right now, but also like challenging too.
Yeah. That's a very good take. I try to approach it the same when I'm coaching people, and I try to when I'm doing my own thing is like, this would be ideal, and like I'm trying to work towards that, but having the grace, and then also just like, okay, like what's just outside of the proximity of where I'm at right now that I can tolerate, and like
you gotta get uncomfortable.
Sometimes that's a 1.25 pound weight.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
It's not always adding another 100 sets.
No,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it's very, very small and incremental. In fact, I was I'm good friends with a gal that won. She was a power lifter and she won the world championships a few years back for age bracket and stuff. And like at the higher levels of powerlifting, as you know, you were in powerlifting and stuff. Like when you get into the world class and international class, like adding 2 pounds a year is like
phenomenal.
Is phenomenal, right? Like when you get close to your maximum potential, very, very small increments.
Yeah. I think that's it's the small incremental steps. It's like what's the one small thing I can do today that can like inch me that much closer, and it's not much.
And that's where tracking really comes into play. It's like if you have changes that are so small and so subtle that you can barely notice, then you need to be making a diary, making a journal of what that actually looks like.
Yeah, for sure. Because then you can look back and without question, it's almost like you're like, okay, I feel like I'm not making progress, but then you look at that tracking, you're like, oh no, I'm
reassures you.
I'm on progress.
Yeah.
And I think, even the top athletes, there's the concept of periodization, right? So, you're not going all out all the time. The top athletes even are. They have base periods where they're just doing zone, like cyclists doing zone 2 cardio for months at a time before they start ramping up.
Don't race the car every time you take it to the track.
Right.
Right.
All right. Well, this has been a great discussion, guys. Really appreciate you coming and taking the time. Like Steve and I, have talked about many times, people work with a trainer, get with a trainer. You've heard Mel talk today, several great trainers at Pure. You guys have several trainers working for you, right?
Yeah.
So, Steve's a trainer, they will they will take care of you. They will figure out where you're at now, help you work towards your goals. But, always, if you're just getting started, the best advice we give over and over is find yourself a good trainer and work with them.
Just get started. That's
So, again, Ariel, Mel, thank you so much for being with us today, coming and talking. The best place to find you guys online?
PureMariposa.com.
PureMariposa.com.
Mindfully You Wellness.
MindfullyUWellness.com.
No,
No. Okay.
that's Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah.
Instagram and social media. I know you got a Facebook page as well. You know, a lot of people can find you on there.
Is it mindfully you? YOU?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Like you. Yeah.
Got it. Got it.
Because it's all about you, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's all about me for sure.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you again. This has been a great
Thank
discussion.
you.
I really appreciate your time. Folks, go check them out. Puremariposa.com.
Yay.
All right. Well, that was a great interview with our friends from Pure Training there. They had to run out, but we were going to just wrap up with our usual. Remind everybody to check out our website, www.yosemite.fit. We've got all of our episodes are up there, plus our list of upcoming events that we just talked about, and our health and fitness business directory is there as well. So, and if you have an entry for either one of those, you can email that to show@yosemite.fit. And we'll make sure and get that added for you. We're really trying to build those out. And don't forget, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And if you're in the area, every Saturday morning at 7 and Tuesday evening at 5:30, we are on the local KRYZ 98.5 FM radio now. So Steve, remind everybody the best way to reach you.
Probably Facebook. Steve Duggar Coaching. Just reach out to me on Facebook. Happy to help.
All right. And so this has been the Yosemite Fit Show with Brent Shazer and
Steve Duggar.
and our guests were Ariel Long and Mel Powell from Pure Fitness. Thanks again for joining us. If you'd like to be a guest or sponsor an episode or have any questions you'd like us to try and get answered for you on a future show, or if you have any other feedback for us, please send an email to show@yosemite.fit. The more we get, the better. Other than that, until next week, thanks for joining us.
See you guys.